Now there was a time where the Premier League was known as the Barclays Premier League, with many fans associating this time with a golden era of English football, stretching from 2001 all the way to 2016, when Barclays was the Premier League's title sponsor. Just the use of this logo could make a grown man cry, and for some it would fill their minds with glory, nostalgia and vibes. Now lately the football world has been talking about this prime era of Barclays football, bringing up the lesser known players that we just associate with this time. But for me, the Barclays era of the Premier League means so much more, like the memorable title intros that we used to get at the start of each season. Just picture waking up back in 2011 and hearing Tiny Temper written in the stars, or back in the 2007/8 season where all our favourite footballers were trapped in capsules, or even the 2013-14 season where the producers must have had a field day animating some of these badges. If some new era Man City fans saw this animation, they would think that someone's smoking on something. And don't get me wrong, the Premier League still does these intros each season, but they just seem heartless. Now not only were the intros to the Barclays Premier League era so good, but just the footballs, the stadiums at the time, the atmosphere, everything just seems better looking at stuff now, and it all just comes down to nostalgia at the end of the day. This era was not as good when it comes to footballing ability, but we look at it so fondly because we grew up during this time. Well, a lot of us anyway, because I know some of the people watching this, they could be 13. I got some old heads, I got some young heads. Shout out to all of you guys. So right now we got guys in their 20s on Twitter making compilations of players that wouldn't see the light of day in modern football. But there are some Barclays era players that I have to talk about. And the first one we have to speak about is Clint Dempsey. Now Clint Dempsey was an icon when it comes to Americans playing in the Premier League. He established himself as one of the most successful American footballers in English football history, with his peak spanning from about 2007 to 2014, during which he was pivotal for Fulham's success. He made 189 Premier League appearances, scoring 50 goals and 16 assists. Name me another American footballer that played in the Premier League that put up these numbers. You can't. And in the 2011/12 season, in the renaissance of his career, he was Fulham's top goal scorer, netting 17 in the Premier League. After leaving Fulham, he then moved on to Tottenham, a downgrade if I'm being honest. But for most of us, when we talk about Clint Dempsey, we just associate him with Fulham, a pioneer in this golden era that they had, even leading them deep into the Europa League. One of his standout moments came in the 2011/12 season when he scored a hat-trick against Newcastle, becoming the first American to do so in the league. Now along with the likes of Clint Dempsey, another name pops into my head, a player that a lot of new gen Man City fans would have never heard about. Elano's stint at Manchester City from 2007 to 2009 was impressive to say the least. In the early stages of Manchester City's Abu Dhabi takeover, the Brazilian midfielder signed by Sven-Göran Eriksson became a fan favourite, with his technical skill, vision and ability to score spectacular goals. In that 2007/8 season, he contributed to 8 goals and 5 assists, often delivering decisive moments for the club, with one of my favourite moments coming in a free kick he scored against Newcastle. Let's not forget that Manchester City were competing with these teams during this time. This was before they had established themselves as actual competitors. Sometime in their life, they're not so competitive. Now, although Elano's time at Manchester City is usually overshadowed by the introduction of Robinho in the following season, I think he does go down as a kind of a cult hero for Manchester City fans, especially who grew up during the Barclays Premier League era, often coming up with crucial moments for the club and known for more of his set pieces. He then moved on to Galatasaray in 2009, and if I'm being honest, I have not heard from him since. I don't know what he could be doing right now. Now you guys really thought I was just going to talk about players in this video, but there's a team, a side that kind of was here and there during the Barclays Premier League era that I just have to talk about. Wigan during the Roberto Martinez era had some remarkable moments, with triumph and struggle. Roberto Martinez being a former Wigan player stepping up for this role, a guy that for newer football fans recently managed Ronaldo at the Euros. He led them through challenging seasons, often battling with relegation. But despite their struggles, Roberto Martinez's tactical approach with Wigan allowed him to get, some outstanding victories. With this squad's standout moment being their 2013 FA Cup victory, where they shocked Manchester City winning 1-0 with Ben Watson coming on from off the bench and scoring a header, qualifying Wigan for the Europa League and winning them the FA Cup. all while their Premier League journey ended tragically with them getting relegated. You can't make this up. This was pure Barclays era football, and some of the key players during this time were the likes of Hugo Rodallega, Ben Watson, Al Habsi in goal, Palacios. These guys, I'm telling you, they were some top ballers. Now another player that needs to be mentioned when we talk about Barclays Premier League scorers is Jermain Defoe, a prolific Premier League striker during his prime years, thriving at the likes of Portsmouth but particularly Tottenham Hotspur. Before Harry Kane, there was Jermain Defoe. Not the tallest or the strongest, Jermain Defoe still managed to get about on a pitch. And even to this day, you put prime Defoe in the Premier League and he would be like top 5 strikers. Over his Premier League career, he scored 162 goals in 496 games, placing him amongst the top 10 all-time goal scorers in the league. And one thing I always liked about Jermain Defoe is that he had an impact off the bench, holding the record for the most goals scored as a substitute with 24. Even when he was in and out of the side fighting with a transition that Tottenham were going through, he still managed to get goals from the bench, not complaining. And I even remember back in 2009 when Tottenham won 9-1 to Wigan, Jermain Defoe scored 5. Throughout his career at Tottenham, he was a consistent performer, and I think he genuinely goes underappreciated, especially with new era Tottenham fans. Now another striker that the younger viewers might remember is Michu, another player that peaked during the prime Barclays era of the Premier League. After joining Swansea in 2011 for a measly €2 million, he had an incredible debut season, scoring 18 Premier League goals and 22 overall in the season, also helping Swansea to win the League Cup in 2013, their first major trophy. Unfortunately, his career was derailed by an ankle injury, but you can't tell me that this season of Michu, can't compete with some of the best debut seasons in Premier League history. Michu had it all, a 6'2" stature but nimble on the feet, the long sleeves, the gloves on a rainy day in Wales. I specifically remember when Michu turned up against Arsenal and just decided, you know what, I'ma just, punch this whole team up. Swansea had this South American winger and Michu who were running rampant against us. Next up, we can't go this video without talking about Rory Delap, a man known for one thing, his throw-ins, with his throw-ins often being more dangerous than corners, providing a crucial weapon for this side filled with Goliaths. And I think a lot of Stoke's success during this time can be attributed to their fullback Rory Delap, who helped them time and time again in crunch moments. He's one of the main reasons why Stoke was seen as such a threat during this time. Can he do it on a cold rainy night in Stoke? Yes, he could. And again, this side, laced with the influence of Rory Delap, tormented my Arsenal.
Who? Tell me who?
Now back to strikers, and I think you guys are getting tired of me talking about them, but another one I have to mention is Gabriel Agbonlahor. With this bulbous aerodynamic head shape, it allowed him to run at speeds that we had never seen before. In this Aston Villa side with the likes of Ashley Young on the left wing, this guy was unstoppable, at times anyway. He was just known as this speed merchant that you did not want to let get in behind your defence, with one of his most iconic performances coming back in 2008 with a hat-trick against Manchester City. But maybe Agbonlahor is a bit of a miss when it comes to actual icons during this time, but one that can't be missed out is Andrey Arshavin. Remembered for his explosive start for the Gunners, he joined Arsenal back in January of 2009, making his mark quickly, scoring 6 goals in his first 12 games, including an iconic 4-goal performance against Liverpool, where he literally went Ip Man mode and went 1 against 11 players. Arshavin came up with iconic moments time and time again during his career at Arsenal. For me, my favourite of his has to be his winner against Barcelona in the Champions League. Scoring in one of the last moments of the game, the ball cuts across to him and bang, he puts it in the bottom corner. The stadium goes wild. I'm going crazy. Every Arsenal fan remembers that moment. Now the phrase prime Barclays Premier League era just refers to nostalgia, a nostalgic time in English football. So when we're seeing all these players be named on our timelines, it doesn't mean that they were the best players during this time. It's just the ones that were notable, the ones that had standout games, the ones that shined in a side that weren't that shiny. I think the Barclays Premier League era is perfectly summed up by being box office. Whether it was Wayne Rooney scoring volleys, Drogba bullying defenders, or Gerrard bossing a midfield, these were the days when the entire league was a slugfest, everyone battling for their food. But whether you grew up during this era or you didn't, name me some of your favourite prime Barclays players. But let's not forget where we are today. Let's appreciate where football is today, where we can actually sit through a game and not be bored out of our minds. Because if Stoke City were playing Wigan, the ball is not going to be in play for more than 20 minutes. But yeah guys, that has been it for this video. Make sure you leave a like, comment and subscribe. And of course, this has been Jib Rules. Stay safe, stay blessed, and peace.
Anytime, anywhere, on go. So you don't like this life, I know. But bro got beef, that's get back. Sorry babes, I gotta go. Chase bread, get dough. Stuck in the tea in the trap band door. I wouldn't blame you if you wanna go. No, I wouldn't blame you if you wanna go.